Hey guys, it's Miko from ML Sound Lab, and today we'll be talking about whether or not guitar cabinets affect your dynamics. Okay, this is a super in-depth and geeky topic to even talk about. We are talking about electric guitars, going through real amplifiers, going through real cabinets, being mic'd up with real microphones, and what the influence is when you have that real amplifier super loud. Now, I'll be honest, this is a little bit influenced by my very good friend Jens Bagren, who stole my last name. I mean, come up with your own last name, dude. Anyways, Jens, who runs Bagren Digital, just released their IRDX core plugin, which they recommend to use after our plugins. I mean, they actually even mention our plugins on their website, which is cool, by the way. And I'm hoping to give people kind of a better understanding on this topic, what it's actually doing and how good of a job it potentially does. What I did today was use my orange rock reverb and a 4x12 orange cab. I threw a 57 on it quite randomly, and I'm separating the real amplifier with a DI box. I'm running this signal to my interface, and now I'm capable of creating an impulse response the way we do impulse responses here at ML Sound Lab, and comparing that IR directly to the cabinet. Now that itself is actually not enough, because this IRDX system is not really modeling running a healthy amplifier. It's modeling cranking your amplifier so loud that things start exploding and you actually get a thing called speaker drive. So today I'm showing you what speaker drive actually sounds like. Can you hear that sound? That's how loud the amplifier is. That's just the hiss of the amplifier. Let's go. Okay, this is the session that I'm running here. This is the DI signal that I recorded with my baritone guitar. Then we have that Pan 01 cabless signal from the loud amplifier going through an impulse response of this same mic up, so an IR version of that real cabinet. And this loud cab here is that actual cabinet captured with that 57. And then doing the same thing with a quiet cabinet. So this quiet with IR track is the amplifier ran super quiet, or normal volume really, with the same impulse response made of that mic up. And then we have the cabinet being mic'd up while the amplifier is at normal volume. I'm saying quiet just because that makes sense in this comparison. Finally, we have the simulation here, which we will compare. We have the IRDX core plugin here, so we can kind of have a listen to what it actually sounds like. Okay, so much talk already, but let's jump to the comparisons finally. So this is what the real microphone sounds like on the real cabinet. Now, the same thing with an impulse response made the ML Sound Lab way. Now, let me toggle back and forth between the real cabinet being mic'd up versus an ML Sound Lab IR, so you can kind of hear the difference if there is any. So really there is not much of a difference. There is a difference in volume. It's very difficult to get them perfectly the same volume, but I tried my best. If we go in depth into these signals, you can actually study them. So the yellow one is the 57, gray one is actually the IR. So if you study this signal, they are pretty much identical. And them being identical means that there is no dynamic difference there. And as you can tell, they are pretty much identical as far as the dynamics go. So now what we can do is an actual null test. We can flip the phase on one of these signals, and if they are identical, you will actually get complete silence. Now that is virtually impossible to do. Even if I was to reamp the same signal through the amplifier twice, we would not get complete silence because the amplifier will not react the same way every time. However, what we can do is hear the dynamic difference here. So if there would be a big dynamic difference, there would be jumps in the audio signal that we get. Okay, so let's do this null test. I've done this so many times so I know what's gonna happen, and I'm gonna explain it to you afterwards. So this is the IR version, and then the IR version and the real cab playing at the same time with the phase reversed. Now, jumping to the loud one, this is where we will actually get to hear speaker drive. And this is something that I want to make very clear what speaker drive is. It's actually a muffling thing for the guitar cabinet. It makes the speaker sort of be farty and darker and more muffled sounding. If we do the same comparison with the loud amplifier and the IR, and the loud cabinet with the 57, this is what it sounds like. This is the IR. And this is the loud cabinet. To demonstrate what this sound actually is, doing a null test between these two will actually show you this difference in sound. So now it's a lot more clear that there actually is a difference in dynamics, and there is a gritty side that's been added to your sound. Now really the question is this a pleasant sound? This is actually something that's been always simulated on the fractal axe effects. In the cabinet section you have speaker drive, and this is the effect that it actually does. And I remember when it came, people were quite excited, but eventually not many people were actually using this simulation that they made. So this is not a new thing that's come out. It's been done, I bet that's like 10 years ago. Now the reason why I'm making this video, like I said in the beginning, was because Bagren Digital, my good friend Jens, who I've actually talked about the IRDX technology with before, they just released their IRDX core plugin, and a bunch of you guys are asking me for my opinion on the matter. So is IRDX simulating this in a good way? Well, let's have a listen. We have the same quiet, regular volume cabinet signal here, and this same exact signal twice, only with the difference of having IRDX core on one of these tracks. So if we take IRDX core and have a listen to what it actually does. Straight out of the bat, I would say with at least the orange, when I was driving the cabinet, I was getting a darker sound. To me, the IRDX is actually giving a brighter sound. So there's that. This could be the case with some other cabinets, could just be that orange does the opposite of whatever they modeled here. So let's do a null test between the quiet cabinet and IRDX. And now let's start with IRDX off. And this is the null test. So even with IRDX at 0, it's doing something because we're not getting silence. Let's tweak the output volume a little bit. So no, we can't actually get complete silence with IRDX. So even with it at 0, it's doing something. Now let's calibrate this again and have a listen to whether it or not it adds that awesome speaker drive that I demonstrated with the real cabinet. It's doing something. I did like that on the palm mute something dynamic happened. But I would say that this is a very different sound than this sound. So this is real speaker drive, and this is IRDX. So with the real speaker drive, my experience is that it always muffles the sound and makes it darker and compresses and stuff like that, while I feel like IRDX is actually making things brighter. And I've actually studied IRDX a little bit and talked about it with Jens, so I can actually show you why I think that is. Okay, and now we're running IRDX Core through Plugindoctor. Plugindoctor is this awesome program where you can actually analyze your plugins. I highly recommend you do that, by the way. Overall, even if you have IRDX off, you have a frequency roll-off from around 12K forward. Once you start turning up IRDX, you are actually getting quite a hump around 8K, and that's it. If you use the intense mode, this is the EQ curve that you're actually getting, and this EQ curve is actually not that drastic when you take to account what IRDX is actually doing. So with IRDX on the intense mode and this 150% mode, you're actually adding a lot of saturation to your signal. And I know I've talked about this with Jens and the Bakran team. They don't really like me saying that it's saturation, but I think it is. Let's jump into the harmonic analysis so you'll see what's going on. So even if you have IRDX at 0, this is noise, but this is very low volume, so it's not really a problem. This is very, very low volume, so nothing to worry about here. But what you are actually seeing here is aliasing. So these peaks up here, when we start changing the frequency that we're sending in, you can see one of them is going up and one of them is going down. That is aliasing. That is literally this peak reaching the 20K and then starting to come back down. Just have a look at this. So it started to come back down. So that is a digital artifact. It's still quite low volume, so I would say nothing to worry about there either. The thing that I personally have a problem with is that this adds a ton of saturation. So if I turn this up, this IRDX, I'm getting both odd and even harmonic. So we're sending in 1000K, we're getting back 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're getting tons of harmonics. And this is post-saturation. This is not driving a speaker and miking it up with a microphone. This is post-saturation because this happens in the signal processing stage after your IR. If there was drive happening, it would have to happen before the mic up. So this kind of a thing happening is post-saturation. That is just what it is. That it's called post-saturation. So just know that. Saturation is a part of this plugin, if you ask me. That is okay. It sounds cool, actually. If you run a preamp super hard, you will also get saturation. So you could also see that as then potentially running that signal higher or hotter into their preamp and getting nice saturation. It could be a nice sound. It could also be power amp distortion, but even that signal, it wouldn't be post mic up, if you know what I mean. Now, on the intense mode, you get even more gain and even more saturation. So that is a part of this plugin. Now, I have good things to say, so don't worry, Bakren, or whoever is interested in this plugin. If you go to the dynamics page and have IRDX at 0, we are sending this ramp signal of essentially probably hiss going from low to high, like and getting out the signal decibels of what this plugin is actually doing. So if I place this at 50%, you will see we are getting some expansion. So on the higher volume spectrum, and we are actually getting more output. So this is expanding your dynamic range. So it's doing something to the dynamics, which is good to know. And if you push this one up, you get more of it. And if you go to the intense mode, you get even more of it. Now, actually on this intense mode, it seems like it's curving back down a little bit. So this intense mode is potentially compressing a little bit more. Really, it's very difficult for you to actually know what it's doing when you're just looking at numbers. So what I recommend you to do is you try it out. Just try it out. If you like it, it's good. If it sounds good, it's good. So really the takeaway is that I'm not so sure that IRDX is faithfully doing just speaker drive. If it was making the signal darker and adding some flops and some really nice analog sounding bits into the signal, I would say go for it. It's awesome. But really, based on these tests that I've made, I think it's adding post saturation and it's making the signal brighter, which is neither of those things are really a part of speaker drive. But I do think that it's a cool thing. It's a cool plugin, a cool concept. Thank you so much for watching the video. See you on the next one, and bye bye.